So we normally don't record on Sundays, but we decided to hop on because the news just came out that former President Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And we're not doctors, we're not here to talk about that, but I just wanted to say personally that I send my love to the entire Biden family and really just hope that he can beat this. And I know that this week his name has been really run through the mud by two people that everyone knows that I'm referencing who wrote a book about his health. And I hope that the only thing that people talk about in the news starting tonight regarding Joseph Biden is just well wishes to him and his family, and perhaps some reverence to his work as a public servant for his entire life, where he served this country and did his best for America, for his love for America.
You and I were both fortunate enough to see Biden speak together at the White House. And I was thinking about that today after I read the news and how fortunate I feel to have had the opportunity to see him speak before. It's been a tough week in politics, and we've been hearing a ton about President Biden on both sides of the aisle, from the right, from the left, from the media. Um, and I think it's interesting that the right is trying to blame Biden for things that are happening right now because he has not been in office. And everything that's happening with the current administration is because of the current administration. But it really saddened me to hear the news today about him because you and I were fortunate enough to see him speak at the White House. That was my first time going. And I feel so fortunate that I had the opportunity to see him speak. He's been in public office for, I think, my entire adult life. And regardless of what anyone wants to say about how the party is performing, he was a damn good president, especially under the circumstances in which he had. But I, along with you, would like to send like healing and warmth for the whole Biden family. And I just hope that the public responds to this appropriately and not in the way that I imagine they're going to act.
Yeah, I think a lot about legacy as a history teacher and as a public historian. And I really hope that eventually his legacy, he gets the legacy that he deserves in the history books. I truly believe that if you look at the overall his overall lifespan in terms of his time in office, whether it was, president and everything else he did leading up to that, he truly served this nation the best way possible. And you could see, when you and I saw him speak last fall and the other times that I've been able to be in the room with him, you just can tell you can sense and feel his authentic love for this country. And I truly believe, I don't like to put people on pedestals. I think all humans are fallible. I think as for a politician, that he was a pretty darn good, decent man. And obviously, we can talk about the failings of every single leader. They exist. But to blame him for Trump, I just hope that eventually history corrects that record. I mean, what is going on in this country right now needs the focus of every single journalist. And the fact that our focus was on this past week about Joseph Biden's health felt like a gigantic waste of time and space when every second of every day the Trump administration is making all of us less safe, unless you're in their inner circle.
Yeah, it's not even just the right. I'm so disappointed in the way that Democrats are acting this week across the board. We're at a time where we need to be coming together on things, and it just seems to be that we can't figure out how to do that for whatever reason. And as a woman in this space, I'm finding it really difficult to watch the toxic masculinity that's happening on the left right now. It's really telling that they're focused on trying to win back young male voters, the Joe Rogan crowd. And to be quite frank, that's not possible. I don't think they can win back these Joe Rogan bros. These boys are so brainwashed and so down this rabbit hole. And any of the guys that we have are not going to appeal to that type of man. And I think that the men on the Democratic side, they think this is the big strategy moment and, trying to win back these guys. And they're not going to. But what they are doing is alienating, first of all, women of color in this space, women in general, like minorities. They're just really missing the mark, I think, on who we need to focus on if we're going to ever have a chance at another election again.
Right after we lost the election, I heard a lot of people on the left saying, okay, well, it was the podcast manosphere, Joe Rogan's, that ensured a Trump win. Right. So I understand that the natural next step is to say, okay, well, we need to create we need to incubate our Joe Rogans, our equivalent of a manosphere, so that we can win back those voters. And I think that is ultimate. I understand why people, well-meaning people thought that, but it's actually illogical because Trump won for a number of reasons, but one of them is that that's where the zeitgeist is when it comes to men right now, young men in particular. Are we fans of that? No. Does it deeply trouble me as someone who teaches adolescent men and women? Yes, it definitely does. But I saw signs of it over the past couple of years in terms of just kind of like the things that young men find funny in my classes, and even them telling me that they liked Trump. And I said, why? And they said, because he's funny. And I said, well, what about all the dangerous stuff he does? They're like, I don't know. He's just funny. Right. And that's just kind of, you can't argue with that. Right. And it's just kind of, I'm not saying that I agree with it and that I accept that. But what I am saying is that you're not going to change the entire zeitgeist of young male culture. Will it change? Absolutely, because the one thing we know from history is that it comes in cycles, and there will be a backlash. This is a backlash, right? We talked about this on our last episode. I mean, I think very simply speaking, this is a response to all the changes that really discombobulated young white men, where they heard of it, they were always told that and kind of taught that by their sheer white maleness, they were just going to get access. And fortunately, society has changed and opened things up for other people, but they are not taking it well because for so long they were on top just by nature of their skin pigmentation and the fact that they were born male. And right now it's going to take a little while for there to be some kind of course correction here. And it's certainly not going to be creating our version of a Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan because of what the nature of what his podcasts are about. The left can't recreate that because it's specific to that group of people, right? I mean, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It makes total sense. Makes total sense. I don't know. I'm at such a loss for everything right now. It's a really tough time to be a political content creator. It's hard to watch all of this every day.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is that like you and I, people got to know us because of our political content, because it's damn good. But we're so much more than that. And there's days where I'm like, do I just start posting like workout photos again? And like, not me out because I don't go out anymore. Thanks to this state of affairs, I don't really feel like going out. But, you know, I feel like every time I want to just kind of stop doing this, I realize that that's what they want. So I keep going, and I know you do the same. But it's exhausting. And it's also exhausting seeing, I'm just going to be frank, seeing our...
We're going to talk about it. We need to talk about it. You want
to just do it? Okay, fine.
Yes, I definitely want to just do it.
Let's just do it. All right, I'm going to say it. I wasn't sure if you were ready. It's really hard to see our party time and time again keep messing up in terms of their direction right now in this political landscape and the audiences they're trying to reach. And there are tons of political commentators and creators who actually speak to the people and connect with the people that, or could potentially connect with the people that we lost in the last election. And I think it's a massive mistake to just ignore that. And what I'm really pussyfooting around to saying is that we need more women, more people of color in this space speaking out, because there was a lot of apathetic people who just didn't vote. They were not the 92% of Black women, right? But if they want us to reach like you and me, I think we could speak to white women, and let's just name it. White women voted for Trump in this election more than they did in the last election. And to completely overlook that and say, oh, no, but let's try to get the bros to vote for the next person it's actually offensive, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of white women vote because we weren't reaching them for whatever reason. And I know our friend Monique Presley, Persist's sister, I went live with her like a couple months ago, and she's like, what are white people doing to reach other white people? And I didn't have an answer. And it is on us to speak to other white people, because They're not listening to others.
No, they're not. And I think as a whole, we need to look at all of the age demographics because I
Yes.
think people are people are hitching a huge wagon onto Gen Z, and the numbers showed us they did not show up to vote. All of these
No.
young influencers didn't move the needle, right? And I think my stance on the whole thing is we need to just widen the net, and they need to be inviting so many more creators to these things instead of just these five people that they continuously pick over and over again that aren't moving the needle. But also, I want to talk about how problematic that flyer that came out for the guys was. I don't even remember what it was called because
Me
someone
neither.
sent it to me in a text message. And when I opened it, I immediately thought it was for a Republican event until I zoomed in and I looked at all of the white, shining faces of the young men of the TikTok movement. And I'm going to be really honest. There were several on there that I've never seen before. And it was being
Wow.
presented as these are the future of the liberal voices, or sorry, the Democratic voices, which reminds me of a situation that happened last week on Threads. I don't know if you remember that guy. I think his handle was Danny K Politics.
But yeah, Danny K.
And
Politics.
he did a list of the most influential political influencers. There were no women. There were no women of color. It was just all a bunch of men. And then this poster comes out and it's this basically that guy's list come to life. Basically, it had the same vibes all over it. And as a woman who has been in this space for 5, 6 years almost, you've been in it for longer than I am. I just found it so offensive and tone deaf, and I tweeted about it. Mine was the first tweet I think that went or thread that went out about it, and then it started making its way around. But I was really just quite appalled by that. What did you
Yeah,
think
it was,
about?
oh yeah, I saw that and I was like, first of all, my first thought is like, who is Danny K. Politics? And then I looked at the list and he put himself in the list. And then instead of like, it's this typical thing where he, instead of him saying, oh, my bad, he doubled down. And I just, it's just the audacity of white men, right? The caucasity of the white men. But I, and here's the thing, this is not us being like, we should be the ones. Actually, sure, we're great. There's so many other ones that are
There's
great.
so many good ones,
So
and
many
there
good
should
ones.
be a woman and a person of color for every white boy that is on the panel.
Not because we're being like, PC or something, because they're good. And that's it's just because they're good. And again, I remember the night before the election, we were getting information that was like millennial women aren't voting. And I was like, you could have you could have asked me that this summer. Listen, I love, like as Kamala says, I love Gen Z. I love Gen Z. I teach Gen Z. We're friends with a lot of Gen Z kids just by being in this space, but like, that's not the only people we need to target. And I think that, it became like the buzzword, Gen Z, and then we just completely overlooked millennials and Gen X, which like, oh my God,
100%.
and Gen X,
100%.
unfortunately, like we're the most people. I mean, I'm Gen X technically, I guess. I'm like I'm like in the middle, but Gen X, like we're unfortunately have become very conservative and MAGA. So I still think we can reach them, but like
Yeah.
we have to
And
ask.
we also need to focus on reaching middle of the road people
Yes,
because, like, true centrists, and I mean people that, they might be run a little bit conservative on taxes and things like that. And we aren't winning any middle of the road people. What they're looking for in a candidate and then start strategizing. I feel like there's just no strategy going on at
no,
all right now,
no.
that nobody's really driving the car, and bringing back the whole men feel like they have to walk on eggshells. I'm like,
Oh my
I
God, imagine that.
it sounds like are you Ben Shapiro? Like,
Right.
this sounds completely like right-wing talking points to me, and the way that the men on the left have presented themselves online on Threads
Yeah.
since the David Hogg situation, because when he came in, I understood completely what he wanted to do, and I was completely on board with it. Everyone needs to be voting down
Well, of
ticket. People need
course.
to be
Yeah.
doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's how we combat the right, because they always vote together. I knew it was kind of ruffling some feathers and stuff, but it's something has happened in the last like month or so, and they've just taken this hard turn. And it's really strange as a woman in this space looking like, wait a minute, Why does this look so much like the right?
Yeah, it seems like some
It's
consultant, like,
concerning.
honestly, it feels like, it smells like a consultant came in and said, "Okay, here's what we need to do." And it was probably a white male consultant, I'm gonna guess, right? And also just that whole idea that it's walking on eggshells not to respect someone's rights. And as our friend Kenny said, like, what do you want to be saying that you're not saying? What do you want to be saying that you're not saying? Right? I don't know. What could it be? Makes me wonder.
Does make me wonder. It's been a really weird week.
It has. I mean, honestly, in terms of like pop culture and criminal trials, the Diddy trial, and seeing so many people online saying, "Why didn't she leave?" I know you can speak to that as someone who has experienced domestic violence and did a whole damn film about it, right? Me,
It's
I've
been
been
pretty
emotionally
sickening to
abused.
watch this,
Yeah.
to watch the responses of people. Like, I really took some time this weekend away from the internet because I did a thread about this, and I said, well, this week the Diddy trial exposed all of the abusers because you saw all of the men rushing to the comments to defend him or say that she was lying or, why didn't she leave? Like you said. So we found out all the abusers. Then we figured out who all the fascists were in the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks. And then the plantation burned down and we found out
Yeah.
who all the racists were. So, like,
Right.
honestly, it's just kind of been like the craziest news week slash 100 and however many days that he's been in
Yeah.
here. You and I were having this conversation, I think, on Friday night. And I was like, the flood the zone is
Yeah.
flooding my zone because
Yeah.
it's
I've been
just
flooded.
so much to look at. It's so
I'm
much to
officially
look at right
flooded.
now. It's
Flooded
so much to
officially.
look at right now.
And it is. And I mean, the summer's coming. I'm concerned about that because they want to start themselves a little riot that they can then call martial law. And I don't know, dude. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what to say. This whole weekend on Instagram, I was pretty quiet, if anyone noticed. I hope someone noticed. Like, I wasn't posting a lot because I posted a video of Joseph Biden tonight just because to honor him. But honestly, like, I've been kind of quiet because I don't know what to say. Like, I've been doing videos that are like historical context videos, but my anger and just fear for the future of this country is just so palpable that I kind of feel like I need to like separate myself a bit from.
Recalibrate. Wild week. We would like to send our best to the entire Biden family. We are sending you health and love and wrapping you in a hug, and we would like to thank him for his entire life's worth of service. I'm so at a loss this week.
Me too. We almost didn't record, but I was like, we need, in honor of former President Biden, we should record. Yeah. I mean, we were really fired up last week. We're still fired up, but I'm feeling it. Feeling it. So,
I think we should leave them with, if you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious about everything that's going on every day, you're not alone. We're
yeah.
all feeling that, especially the people that are bringing you this information every day. It's a lot for everybody, even us. And this is like what we do. This is what charges us. And so please take care of yourselves. Go outside, take a walk, get some air, drink water, take a nap, like step away and do things
Yeah.
that make you feel good, because that's the best thing we can do in the face of fascism, right? Is continue living and trying to enjoy.
Yeah. Find a little bit of pockets of joy in this very toxic landscape. So, on that note, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back. See, we're staying consistent, even though we're feeling very
We are.
weirded out. Right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week where we cover the most toxic topics in the news and pop culture.
Bye.
Bye.